Hey guys, I am making this video because it's kind of been a long time coming, but I wanted to create a video that deals with shadow work and kind of gives a rough outline of kind of the different phases of like going through it. What can you expect? What kind of stuff are you gonna like get into? And kind of some overall like blanket statements that I'll make about the process in general. I don't want to be specific because shadow work is individual to the person. My shadow work is going to look different from your shadow work, and so on and so forth. There are a lot of similarities, and there are a lot of things that you can reference from other people that do shadow work. But framework-wise, it is all very much individualized to the person. So, first, what is shadow work? Simply put, shadow work is the act of exploration of your internal self. The part of you that no one else really sees. And what I mean by that is we act externally. And our actions, people can see the actions. And generally, when people see an action that's done, it's like, okay, this person helped a lady across the street. That was a good act, so I'm going to make them a good egg. It's like that. It's that simple. That person could be like having all sorts of internal problems, but that lady doesn't see, or that person doesn't see any of that. They just see the action you took. So, and no one can see the internal stuff. They can get glimpses based on repeated actions you do over time. And the more you kind of interact with someone, the more you can kind of get a sense of like what their internal looks like. Because there are hints, or outright like blaring horns, depending on like what's really going on in there, that'll let you know where they're at. But again, we don't actually know. We just can make educated guesses. So shadow work is you taking time to explore that and rearrange, transmute, change, or remove things that don't necessarily help you. So, broadly speaking, that's kind of shadow work in a nutshell, is delving into your internals and then working with the internals in some way to get some sort of result, or just because you just want to like work on yourself. There's all sorts of reasons you do shadow work. And if someone has a different definition or they use a different word, that's totally fine. This is the definition I'm using for the process I'm talking about. So just putting it out there. You can call it whatever you want. It's just the process, and I'm just putting a label on it. The process doesn't change. So, why do we do shadow work? Well, again, there are numerous reasons, but some of the main ones that kind of keep coming back are, first, maybe it's you don't understand yourself. And so simply, you're just trying to figure out more about yourself and why you do what you do. So that's a very like introductory, we're just feeling around, seeing what's in there. And also, you can do this at a deep level too. So I'm not saying that this is only relegated to like surface level stuff, but it is something that's very light, and you don't have to go into any like real depth there. So it's like an example of this would be, why do I tie my shoe a certain way? Very innocuous. So you literally, you're like talking to yourself, and you're like, why do I do this? You may get some images, you may get like actual speech or words of some kind, you could get sounds, you could get feelings, music, number, there's like, it literally could be anything. And this is where it's like, you need to know how to listen to yourself and to not doubt yourself when you get something, whatever it is. Because at first it's going to be like, well, how do I know I'm not just making shit up? Generally, and this is very general, everyone has their own process once they get to know themselves better. But generally speaking, your first kind of thing that pops out is usually the correct thing, just because you don't have time to really create something in your head. So if I ask myself, why do I tie my shoes a certain way, and then I immediately get an image of like a 5-year-old me learning how to tie my shoe from my dad. Well, there you go. That's probably the answer. Is it the full answer? Probably not. But like, that's what your internal is telling you. Now you learn something. Very basic. Pretty simple. Anyone can do it at any point in time. No real, like, you don't have to, delve deep into anything. Another kind of reason that someone might do shadow work is they have maybe some sort of addiction or some sort of trait that they don't like that they do. Or in some cases, maybe it's, hey, I don't like that you do this. And you hear this over and over again, and eventually you're like, okay, maybe I should not do this thing. Why am I doing it? So that's another reason we might do shadow work. In that scenario, it's, again, similar to the first scenario, where you're going to ask yourself why you do the thing. And this is where you gotta just listen. And even if it doesn't make sense, you follow the trail. And what I mean by that is similar to the video where I did this at a deep level with my healing my inner child. I'll say, at least for the way I do it, I go from plot point to plot point until I get to wherever it is that I'm being led to. Someone else could view it totally differently, and that's okay. But the main thing that you're trying to do is you're trying to get down to the core issue. And there's layers. So it may be like 4 or 5 layers of stuff that got you to that point of doing the action. So I'll say an addiction as an example. It may start out where it's like, I'll use cards as an example within the example. So I used to be really addicted to opening packs of cards. I still love opening packs of cards. Why? The first thing that came up was my dad. Because my dad, when we were younger, that was a thing we did as a bonding exercise, where we would go to the card store, we'd hang out and chat with people, and then we'd buy some packs. I'd open them, I'd get excited about something that I got, and then it was like a really happy experience. Then it's like, now that you know that this is the first link, what's the next link below it? And then it's like, okay, well, there was something maybe that I was looking for that I wasn't getting. And so in this case, the feeling of excitement that I got from opening the pack of cards was a means to hide the real thing that I was looking for, and it filled that gap. So I didn't have to be like sad that I wasn't getting the thing I was needing, and instead I'm opening these cards and it's filling the void temporarily, right? We can go deeper and deeper, but this is the point, is like you look and you just kind of suss it out. And even if it doesn't make sense, you just keep going with it until you figure it out. Now, something I want to caution, if you are not mentally prepared for what might come up, start with surface level stuff and don't go too deep. Because you will be led to places that you may not want to go if you're not ready. So this is you having to understand how much you can handle as a person when you're doing this. And I'm not trying to like make anyone like freak out or be scared or whatever. It's just, if you're trying to make a change, starting with small things and working your way up is going to be better than diving in the deep end. Not saying that the deep end can't help you do the thing that you want to do, but it's going to be more stressful for you in the short term. So kind of pick your gauge on what you're going to be doing there. Okay, so I've been talking about levels. I gave some examples of like some different ways that people might want to like change stuff. But what are these like levels I'm talking about? Well, the way we function on our decision making, there's kind of like, obviously it's really complicated, so I'm not going to do it justice with a few words, but simply, we have surface level kind of decision making, and then as we go deeper, there's deeper layers of decision making and different like reasons why we do what we do. And at the very bottom is the core of like you. And this is something that if you haven't felt it, you won't understand that it's kind of like an unchanging part of you. This is kind of a pillar, like, think about it as like something that you were just slotted in from birth, effectively. And I know that's super controversial. I understand. I'm not going to get into specifics on like, well, you know, how do we know, whatever, like, don't care, not going to have an argument about this. There is something that each person has that is foundational to them. and it is unique, and each person has it. What that says about how we got it, I don't fucking know. And that's not the point of this. So if you haven't found this like core part of you, start with just exploring yourself. Because once you see these like core tenets of yourself, things that feel very much like you will not budge from these basic, they're the things that are like deal breakers that no one can change your mind on. And no matter what situation you're in, they're foundational for you. And I'm not talking about surface level stuff like liking a specific type of food. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about core values that are integral to like you as a person, what make you up in the truest sense. Because we have, again, it's the onion. So I'm talking about the core. From the core, we get like different layers, and these layers are all part of our experience as we like walk in our lives and do things and experience other people. Those are things that can change. As far as I can tell, and again, it's possible I'm just not far enough on my journey to be able to change them. But as far as I could tell, I can't change those pillar foundational stuff. Once I've found it, it's like, oh, that's a part of me. And it's like super obvious to me that it's like, well, yeah, that's just how I am. So as far as I can tell, they're qualities that are unchangeable. And knowing that is huge, because that means there are things about you that once you know that this is how you act, where it's like, well, it's not even about the action. It's like, this is your core value, and because it's your core value, you can then start to see why you act a certain way. Where maybe you're particularly like close to animals, and you don't really understand why you're close to animals, but animals have always come up to you, and it's just like people around you are like, how the fuck are you doing this? And then you're like, I don't know, I'm just existing, and they just really like me. And then you find out at like a core level that you have this like caring, kind of soothing presence that it's such a fundamental core part of you that animals feel drawn to this presence. That's like a response to the presence you have. And again, everyone's different, so they all have their own unique things that make them who they are. So, bringing this up because once you've hit this layer, you know you've basically hit like as deep as you can really dig. There might be more layers. I don't fucking know. I haven't gone past these, so as far as I'm aware, this is as far as I can go for now. Above that layer, I would say not always, but at least for me, from my experience, the layer right next to those core values is like childhood stuff. Your inner child, like all of the things that kind of affected you at a very early age. Because when you're young, you absorb everything, and so that kind of coalesces that first couple layers. So when you're delving with like inner child stuff and childhood traumas, especially when you're an adult, and I'm assuming everyone that's watching this is an adult. If you're a child, I don't know what to tell you. Like, you probably shouldn't be watching these videos. But so sorry, I just totally sidetracked myself. So when you're dealing with the inner child, as an adult, you have to be the parent for yourself. You have to be the one to stand up and help the inner child feel safe. That's you got to do that at some point. And so you can do that in all sorts of ways. There's all sorts of reasons why child you was afraid of things, child you didn't feel safe, whatever it is. Some people's inner child have more healing they need to do than others, because our experiences as a child are all different. Some people went through some really fucked up shit, and then other people had a great, like, early childhood. Doesn't mean you're any better or worse. That's just, for that part of you, there's more or less work that has to be done. Probably the closer you get to your, like, foundational pillar stuff, the deeper that, like, childhood whatever has affected you. So, like, recently, I did that one video where I walked people through stuff, and I went through and, like, healed my inner child with regards to, like, feeling that I was not, like, safe to be myself, because, from the inner child perspective, it's like the kid just wants to run and play and feel safe and feel loved. That's it. It's that simple. Once you feel that, you fix, like, so many problems. I say fix. It's not really about fixing. It's about healing. So I gotta retrain my verbiage. So healing the inner child is such a important process that I think everyone should go through at some point. Because it really does bring out the true you. And when you can be yourself, you can set proper boundaries. The things that truly, like, matter to you. Things that don't suddenly lose their appeal. It's a whole transformational thing. And that's some really deep shadow work. So I know I'm going in reverse order a little bit with this, but I think it's important to see what can be and then work your way up towards the equally important but also less traumatic in some instances aspects of yourself. So after you get past that inner child layer or layers, you can start to see kind of other parts of you. It could be like, your teenage years. It doesn't there's no one size fits all on when the next layers, like, what really is in there. But those layers are kind of like, they're shaped by the inner child layers. So if you have a trauma from your inner child, that's going to manifest in the next set of layers, where it's like, because I didn't feel loved as a child, as a young adult or teenager or whatever, I acted a certain way. And because you act a certain way, it's like, okay, maybe it's a good way, maybe it's a bad way, who knows? But that's something you have to kind of, again, just suss out and figure out. And this is also why it's like breadcrumb trails. Because the inner child does just kind of dictate what the outer layers look like, because the experiences you had as a kid very much form how you're going to see the world going forward. That's why there's so many laws around kids, and everyone's like incredibly like concerned when kids are brought up, because of how catastrophic things can happen if the kid has some sort of awful experience. So that's also why sorry, I keep like knocking the desk. That's also why at a instinctual level, mothers and fathers and, you know, parents in general, there's like an instinctual like knee-jerk reaction when they hear something happens involving kids. It makes sense, because it's like one of the most important like aspects of a person getting formed, right? But anyway, so because of that, you're going to see very similar behavior getting manifested in different ways as you go into the outer and the further layers. And the older you are, the more layers you're going to have, inevitably. Like rings of a tree. Or, you know, the onion, or whatever. Whatever analogy you want to use. And the topmost outer layers, while true that it generally kind of follows this kind of age pattern, that's not always the case. Sometimes you can have something that's like really core to you that is deep, but that it's only something you kind of recently have like worked on. And so when that happens, it will like be deep in your like layers of stuff. So that's why I say it's a general rule, not like, you know, following it to the letter. And at the end of the day, it really is kind of like what is resonating with you, the true you inside. That's how close or far away it gets. You know, the kid is so close to that inner, like, you, because that's all it really has. So it just functions as itself. And then when you have the inner layers, then you have, like, okay, now we got, like, more layers of, like, experience to work from. So maybe the kid doesn't act as just core itself. It uses the other layers from the learned experiences it's had in order to function differently. And so this is where, if you've never done shadow work and you're older, this is going to be really hard, because you have a lot more that you potentially have to go through. Not saying that it's impossible, not saying that you shouldn't do it, and it's also possible that throughout most of your life you had like a great life, and you don't have too many like issues, because maybe you had like great parents, you had great friends growing up, you know, your first couple jobs, everyone was really kind and nice, and it's like, great, like, you have less shadow work you have to do. You still probably should like root around in there just to see what's going on, and like learn about yourself. But I mean, that's fine. That's great. So now that we've kind of got some established stuff out of the way, I'm going to just do a couple tips or rules of thumb that I use when I work on shadow stuff. Number one, don't bite off too much. You're not going to fix yourself. Oh, fuck. You're not going to heal yourself. I gotta stop using fix. You're not going to heal yourself in a single day. Just not going to happen. However, what you can do is you can locate something that maybe is a behavior that you want changed in some way. So when it comes to like the addiction stuff, why am I addicted to the thing? Generally it's because there's something that you need, that it's either your inner child or like a core part of you that is like, I have a need and it is not being fulfilled. I can temporarily fill it by this addiction. So if you want to change the addiction and stop it from popping up in your life, you gotta go to the root thing and find out what it is that you're missing. And it's different for everyone. But if you go balls deep and you're like, okay, I'm gonna like go right to the source right away, and you find out that it's like, you had some horrible experience when you were a child and it's traumatized you, and for most of your life you didn't even remember that this was a thing that happened to you as a kid. If you're not prepared for that, it's like, yeah, you'll eventually like work through it, but it will just kind of like fuck you up for a couple days, because it's like, depending on what it is, it's like, it could really like mess up your groove on your stuff. And some people just want to rip the Band-Aid off. And if they want to go through like, a couple days of sorting through their emotions and feelings and just kind of cry it out until they feel better, that's fine. If that works for you, great. For a lot of people, they probably don't want to do that. They don't want to take off work for a couple days. They don't want to like just non-stop be like doing the thing, whatever it is. And I'm not saying that's the way it's always going to be. It's very possible that you may never go through something like that because you didn't have anything like super crazy that made you upset. And that's, again, individualized. But the point stands. If you're trying to do a measured approach, take one step at a time, and let yourself sit with the new information you get. Doesn't matter what it is. Sit with it, and you'll just know when you're getting to the point. It's like an intuitive knowing, which again, you have to listen to. You gotta listen to your body. You gotta listen to your, like... Sorry, I'm gonna sidetrack a little bit. This listening is very important for this process. You have to get in tune with yourself. And I will cover that after I do this. So that'll be the next thing. But, so getting back. You take one thing at a time. You sit with it. You digest it. And once you've fully digested what it is that you understand, you go to the next thing. Don't do it beforehand unless you want to just kind of barrel through. Okay. So 2, which is what I was talking about before, getting in tune with your body, your mind, and this like intuition, soul, whatever you want to call it. There's like a gut knowing. These 3 aspects of yourself will help you by letting you know through maybe physical sensations. So like if you start like shaking or trembling, or your heart starts beating really fast, or you feel like lightheaded or dizzy, these are things that will manifest because as you tap into whatever it is that you're tapping into, you will feel physical sensations almost as if you're back there. And it doesn't happen all the time, but it can happen. That's why you got to take it slow. And again, for the people who don't want to take it slow, that's fine. But, like, I'm warning. Out of, like, care. And so your body will also let you know when enough is enough. Or when you've gone too far. Because you will probably start denying things. That's at least the way it manifested for me. It could be different for everyone. Could be avoidant, could be confrontational, you could get angry. There's like a whole gambit of ways to avoid like dealing with a situation that you're not ready for. So if you're starting to feel like you're like, maybe you're questioning, like something pops up and it like has to do with like a family member. And you're like, I don't know if that's really true. Is that? And you start like doubting that first thing that pops up. It's like, maybe you should stop for now and come back to it at a different time. Digest what you've learned. And as you get better at listening, because that's what you're doing, you're quieting yourself and you're letting your body and mind and that intuition guide you towards what you need to see. And I'll just say, the deeper you go with this stuff, the more fundamentally changing it will be. You could literally be living a life that doesn't resonate at all with your internal core part of you. And if you kind of heal a lot of the outer layers and then heal the inner child, you're not going to want to do what you're doing because it does not align with you. And when it doesn't align, it like, I don't know if physically hurts is the right word, but it's almost like an agony of the soul that you're not doing the thing that you want to be doing. And if you're in that kind of stage where you feel agony from doing everyday things, you have to change what you're doing. Doesn't matter if it's, well, everyone said that this is great and I should do it, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't resonate with you, so don't do it. It's that simple. And at first it's really hard, especially if you've entrenched yourself in your life to where you've put like, okay, I'm married to someone that doesn't love me, or that I'm not, I don't love, or whatever. I have a job that pays really well, but also I fucking hate doing every day. My commute is awful, but because I have this car that I don't even like, I get there And it's like you just start going down the list of like suddenly your life doesn't feel so cushy even though everyone's telling you it's such a great life. It's like maybe for other people, not for you. It's just agony for you. So, and if you're feeling that, you need to look inside, figure out what you actually want. Because that generally speaks to me. If someone says, I hate everything I do on a daily basis, that tells me that you are doing something fundamentally wrong when it comes to your priorities. What are you prioritizing? Well, the friend over here said that they needed help, and then this person said that it was a good idea, and then this person had me do this, and what about you? Like, we talk about people being selfish, but fundamentally, you need to take care of yourself. If you're not taking care of yourself, doesn't matter what other things are going on outside. You're like fundamentally not able to function properly, and it's going to cause a ripple effect outward, and everyone will just feel it. It may be like friends stop talking to you, or people that used to like you really jive with, suddenly they're like, oh, I'm busy, oh sorry I can't do it this weekend, oh whatever. If someone wants to hang out, they will hang out regardless of like how busy they are. So, So, listening internally. And we can also do this in many ways. It could be feelings, it could be thoughts, it could be pictures. Again, you just have to open yourself to the possibility of letting your internals tell you what the internals want to say. There have been people who have talked about like automatic writing, where it's like, well, if you're having a really hard time like picturing or visualizing or whatever, you could just start writing without thinking. You just start writing things, and whatever comes up, and then you can read it later. Or you could, artists will sometimes do like paintings, where it's like they're just painting, and something comes up from the painting, where maybe they put their emotions or their feelings into the painting. Same thing with like, writing books, any creative endeavor, like this can happen. But you have to have the patience to listen. And it's going to be hard at first, and it's going to feel weird, and you're going to feel like I felt so stupid for like, it's like, am I really just like sitting here twiddling my thumbs trying to figure out what my like intuition's trying to tell me? Like, this seems so dumb. But over time you realize it's like, well, there actually is something there. I just had to be quiet for a little bit. So, and it could be uncomfortable, but anyway. Okay. So, intuition and like listening to yourself, that's important. Taking on what you can. Try not to go like digging around for too long. It's a process that takes a while. Is there anything else that I could say about this process that would be helpful? Like, I'm using my intuition right now. Like, I didn't plan out how I was going to say this at all. So that's why it may come across like a little bit random or whatever. But I'm trying to structure it as I go. and just let the thing come out. Oh, right. So judgment. This is something that probably everyone is going to go through. Not saying 100%, but like, I would bet more often than not, we're going to want to judge something that comes up. Whether it be for or against or whatever. Judging yourself, it's kind of counterproductive. Not saying it doesn't have its place. Judgment and discernment are important when it comes to figuring out if your actions are like justified or if you're doing the right thing, yada yada yada. But when doing shadow work, judging what your past self did, you're just gonna prolong the shadow work for yourself. You need to allow yourself to accept that this is what you're doing. And this is what you've done. And it's okay that this happened. Now, what I mean by that is not write off everything you did action-wise. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you can forgive yourself for something that happened in the past that if you did something wrong or whatever it is, whatever you are judging yourself for, allow forgiveness to show up. So it's first you gotta accept that this thing happened. You can't change it. Even if you want to, you can't change it. Then forgiving the actions that happened. This is hard. Especially if you're putting yourself down for something that happened. And then after you do these first two steps, then you gotta love yourself. You gotta say, look, and as stupid as it may feel in the beginning, talk to yourself. Be like, hey, I know that this was something that you did in the past. It wasn't great. Obviously, if I could take it back, I would, knowing what I know now. But I can't, so I'm accepting that that happened. Now, I'm going to let go and forgive what happened. Because that doesn't define the action, does not define who I am. And I know inside that I won't make the same mistake again. I won't do the same actions. Or I won't have the same thing happen. Maybe I won't react the same way, whatever. And it's okay to love myself because I deserve love. I deserve to be loved. The action doesn't make me. The action is just a small thing that I did. And so you split off the actions that happened, whether they be things that were done to you or things that were done by you. The action is separate. And once you disconnect the action from you, you can let it go. And by letting it go, you can see you are still you, and you can love yourself. And when you love yourself and you let go of the judgment, the self-talk, oh, I'm not good enough, oh, I don't deserve to be loved. No, every single person, regardless of what you've done, deserves to be loved, supported, and to live a life that they enjoy living. That's it. And it's going to take a lot of effort to truly let this all unfold. And when you do this, this is healing yourself. You are healing yourself. Everyone can heal themselves. Some people may be better at healing themselves than others because they have more practice. That's it. Also, healing yourself, you obviously, you don't have to start at the wound that is the deepest. Obviously, in the physical world, we'd do the opposite, right? We'd start with the most critical thing that might kill you. But in here, the thing that will kill you, it's already affecting you. So, working up to it, getting experience with healing, and then finally, when you get to that part, you'll have the experience to deal with it, even though it will be hard. Some people are naturally just really good at healing, and they can, and then just immediately heal some sort of internal stuff once they realize they can do it. Other people, it just takes a lot of time and dedication to build up to it. There's no one is better or worse when it comes to this. Obviously I'm saying there are different skill levels, but in the end, no one else can heal you. Only you can heal yourself. So, if someone else is healed, great. You can be happy for them. You can cheer them on. But at the end of the day, that doesn't help heal you. So you don't have to compare yourself to anyone else. That's it. So, that's really important. Okay, so I'm just trying to think about alright, so I talked about how you heal yourself. I talked about being cautious. My brain literally lost whatever the second thing is that I said, but I know it's important, so we did that. We talked about the layers. Alright, I'm not sure if there's anything else, so let me sit here for a second and think. I guess, as kind of a wrapping up things, shadow work, or whatever this process you want to call it, is some of the most impactful things you can do in your life. Because when you, nose itchy, when you internally heal, the external world will change and reflect the internal. It just will. There are things I do that I only started doing spontaneously because I've healed internal things, and suddenly now I just do them. I don't even think about it, I just do them. One perfect example is making my bed. I've talked about this in the past, but like, at a fundamental level, who the fuck cares if you make your bed or not? But I make my bed because internally I care enough about me and I love myself to where I want my future self, when it goes to like going to bed at night, to have a nice bed that they or me can go into. So, same thing with like brushing my teeth, taking showers. You know, it's like all these fundamental things that I guarantee you some people that are watching this video may be struggling with. Which, by the way, it's okay wherever you're at on your journey. There's no judgment, no shame here. We all are struggling with different things. So, you know, someone who's like, it's so hard to get up and take a shower. It's so hard for me to brush my teeth. It's so hard for me to eat healthy. The reason they're hard is because internally there's something about you that is, there's like a self-worth where you may not feel worthy to do these things internally. Now, I'm not saying this is for everyone, but I've seen plenty of people, myself included, who have felt like they didn't deserve to be clean. They didn't deserve to have, you know, nice teeth or good food or whatever it is. And so they continued staying in this like cesspit that they've kind of created for themselves. Maybe they haven't cleaned up around themselves, so they're like, yeah, I deserve to live in like a pigsty. Like, the internals show the external and make the external what it is. So if you're living like that, your internals, this is how you're feeling, and you're feeling like this is the lifestyle you should be living. There's probably a lot of like internal talk about, you know, I don't deserve this. I blah blah blah, whatever. That's where shadow work comes in to fix the internal. Shadow work is kind of like being taught how to be a doctor by doing it yourself, hands-on teaching. And then once you're a doctor of your internals, you can get in there and you can heal things, and then suddenly you start cleaning up. Suddenly you start making your bed. Suddenly you start brushing your teeth. And it's not like they were actually hard to do. It's that you weren't allowing yourself to do them. Because internally there was like, nope, you're not allowed. So That's like some real world kind of examples. And once you start putting worth on yourself, and once you start really like understanding that every single one of you is valuable, just as valuable, and the world needs you. That's it. Every single one that's here. Doesn't matter what you're doing. You have something that the world needs. You have to unearth it internally, be yourself, to bring it out. No one else is going to do it for you. You have to do the work. And if you're not willing to, well, I mean, that's your decision, right? But if you're sick and tired of living the way you are, you got to look in. No one else is... None of this stuff out here is going to tell you how to fix yourself. Heal. How to heal yourself. You know, if you don't like the fact that you feel lazy and you are laying in bed, well, do something about it. like I know that's such a like lame piece of advice. Yeah, just do it. The literally just do it meme. Like, there's a reason that is a meme, because it's actually good advice, but there's a lot of context around like why that works. It's just do it. Just get inside and start being the doctor that you always needed. Or spiritual healer, or whatever you want to call yourself. It's a new skill. Sometimes it may actually be a skill that you have a lot of proficiency in, you just didn't know. But it's a new skill. Pick it up. Start working with it. And don't take my word on like these things changing. Just try a little bit of it and you'll see that your outward stuff starts changing, even if it's small things. Just pay attention. All the signs will be there. Like, if you always get mad when someone comments on you being like bald, well, that's an internal thing. There are plenty of bald people that are proud to be bald, or at least they're like happy that they are the way they are. Why can't you? It's not because you can't. It's because you've chosen not to. And that choice may have been subconscious, or it may have been all sorts of reasons. But you can fix it. Even if up until this point, you didn't care that you were mad. If you just decided now that, you know what? I don't like being mad anymore. I'm going to be happy when someone comments on my baldness. Yeah, you can totally do that. You can totally change that. You got all the tools. So, I think that's a good stopping point for this. I don't really know what else I could really attach onto this, but if there's like more clarity or something that I missed, I'll make a second part. So maybe I'll just label this like part 1, or maybe I'll just, I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to label this. Who knows? That's future Tom's fault that he needs to figure it out. So, okay. Thanks for watching. Good luck. I think every single one of you can do incredible things. Genuinely. Like, imagine if every single one of us did the internal work. How magical would the place we live in be? That'd be fucking awesome. Everyone is using their gifts to, like, make the world a better place. That'd be fucking awesome. So, yeah. Start in here. Then it will show out. So, yeah. Okay. Bye.